Hi guys, this is Gnimsh and welcome to this short vlog about the nerfs, because yesterday Blizzard announced the nerfs for the upcoming expansion, or rather it's like the nerfs to the old content, but it will hit the same time the expansion hits. So, well, let's just without further ado, let's just jump into the nerfs and let's talk about them. So the first card to be changed is Ancient of Lore. Basically, Blizzard is doing a couple of changes to Druid, and the first one is Ancient of Lore being changed from drawing 2 cards to drawing 1 card. So nothing else changes. It changes. It's still a 7 mana 5/5, and when you play it, you can choose if you want to heal yourself or draw a card. And a lot of people said like, hey, it's now unplayable. Nobody will play this card because it's like, it's not worth it. 7 mana 5/5 and I draw only 1 card. The thing is, like, I do agree drawing 1 card is not the best, but it's still an okay trade overall. And you cannot forget, there is also this choose heal 5, which a lot of times I chosen, and I was happy that I played 7 mana, a 5/5 and heal 5. So I think Ancient of Lore is still okay. I agree with the nerf in a sense, because whenever somebody plays Ancient of Lore and draws 2 cards, it's too good. You feel it's too powerful, and when you play it yourself, you also feel like it's really powerful effect, just replenishing your hand, drawing those 2 cards, getting closer to the combo range. So Ancient of Lore being nerfed, I think it's fine. You might not want to play 2 in your Druid deck, you might only play 1. If you are looking specifically for draw effects, there are other effects you can play. You can play Nourish, you can play Raven Isle, for example. So there are some other cards that still draw you the card, but they will not heal you. So Ancient of Lore still, I think, has the spot in the Druid deck. Like, we will see how the Druid decks look like in Standard and Wild, but I think Ancient of Lore is a good nerf. The card was too powerful right now, it's okay. You can play it or not. Another nerf is Force of Nature. So Force of Nature is being changed from 6 mana to 5 mana, now it's cheaper. It still summons 3/2 trance, but they do not have charge. What it means. So let's talk about Force of Nature as it is right now before the nerfs. A 6 mana 6/6 power 2/2 trance, mostly used with a combo with Savage Root to just kill your opponents, deal 14 points of damage. Also used as a combat card on turn 6, creating those trance and charging into the minions, just killing the minions, right? Like a removal card. We lose that. So first, we lose the combo piece, which is fine. Combo was too powerful. Everybody agreed that the combo is not good for the game. So no more combo in a way that not this on the same turn. You can still play the trance. If they survive, you can Savage Roar, and it will be basically the same thing, still 14 points of damage, but you will not be able to do it on turn 9 and just charge and win the game right there. But you also lose the removal card. So now it's cheaper. So for 5 mana you get 6/6 stats, and when you think about it, it's okay overall as a, like, when you look at a card. It's for 5 mana, getting 6/6 in power, spread out. It's good for Druid. Druid wants to have a couple of targets because Druid still has the buffs. You still have the Savage Roar, you still have Power of the Wild. So you might want to play it in a specific deck, but it's not an auto-include in every Druid deck right now. Like, it's a good nerf in a way that the card is not that. It is a card that you might want to play, but it doesn't work like it worked in the past. It might actually not see play if there are better alternatives for 5 mana, and in the new set there is a couple of interesting cards, and I think there's overall a couple of good minions that you can play. And it depends also on the meta game. Like, if there is more removal, like if people play well, Hellfires, like if there's a lot of Warlocks, if Druids start to play Starfall, then probably creating a couple of 2/2s doesn't matter that much. And I don't feel the card is that good overall. I think it's, again, like below average. Like, if you really want to include it in your deck, you can, but I think the nerf was really strong. And it's killed Force of Nature in a way. So I do agree with people who say like the nerf is really strong here. And then the third card for the Druid is Keeper of the Grove, and obviously 4 mana 2/4, you choose 2 damage or silence, and now it's still 2 damage or silence, but the stats are getting nerfed. It's a 2/2. And my understanding here is that Keeper of the Grove was played in every Druid deck. You just had to play it. And right now, maybe you can find a better card to play for 4 mana, because you will need to make a choice there. Do you want to silence? And if you don't want to deal that 2 points of damage, then there is a better card for 4 mana for free silence. And if you want to deal damage, there's probably something else as well. It's again still a tough question because the choose one is giving you a lot of advantage. So sometimes you can play the keeper to maybe kill a minion, innervate it early to kill something that an aggro deck just played, and you still get a 2/2 minion that will be able to trade into something else. Not trade as well as it was trading in the past, but still it provides you with some potential. Honestly, probably it's better to play a 4-drop that's like even a Yeti, a 4/5. It's probably better than just playing it a mere 2/2 and it just dies. And then the silence, yeah, just Spellbreaker is just better, I think. So yeah, if you want silence, maybe Spellbreaker instead. So just looking at the druid changes, I still feel that Innervate was missed, and the Blizzard should do something with Innervate. I'm fine with Wild Growth. The explanation is that Innervate and Wild Growth are part of the class design in a way that Druid wants to ramp, but we've seen so many examples where Innervate makes cards too powerful. So I think Innervate will get nerfed in the future. Like if Blizzard decided not to nerf it right now, we will probably have to nerf it at some point because it just... A lot of cards, like Blizzard is explaining that they constrict, they have like design constraints, right? So you cannot design a card because then you have, oh, if you place this with Innervate, it's totally too powerful. And I do think we are at this stage at the very moment, especially because Druid still has Innervate and Wild Growth. So what you can do is you can, and well, Thaurissan, everybody has Thaurissan, but at least this year. But what you can do is just coin Wild Growth, then you can innervate, double innervate something, and this makes some of the cards too powerful. Like Thaurissan turn 1 or Thaurissan turn 2 is just too good, and I think it makes Druid still a very powerful and potent class. And I just agree with Lothar. I don't like innervate as a card. Like I like to play it because you feel super powerful, but I don't think it's good for the game. It's not healthy for the game. So think Cthulhu, right? Like every other class will have to play Cthulhu on turn 10. Or like any other 10-drop. Druid can play Cthulhu for like whatever 10-drop they have, like double innervate and the card costs 6. With the Wild Growth, it costs 5, basically, right? So like on turn 5 they can play it, like a 10-drop. And some of the 10-drops are too powerful to be played. For example, I'm Yogg-Saron, guys. Like we've seen Yogg-Saron on the stream. It does so many crazy things. Imagine Druid just going Wild Growth on turn, what, like 2, then another Wild Growth, maybe coin somewhere there along the way, and then innervate, and it's how many spells? 5 spells, right? And it just play Yogg-Saron, and it's 6 spells on turn 5 or 6, and it can just win the game right there. So it's tough. Like I don't like Innervate and Wild Growth staying in the game that much. I mean, Wild Growth is fine because it just ramps and it's still like you have to spend a card right there. But Innervate is somehow too powerful. So yeah, that's basically Druid. Blizzard decided to keep the Innervate for now. We'll see. Let's talk about the other nerfs. We have the Ironbeak Owl nerfed to 3 mana. So from 2 to 3 mana, and this means that the silence gets hit hard overall in the game. We still have Spellbreaker as I said, a 4/3 guy for 4 mana, but suddenly we cannot really respond to the early drops. And I just went through all the early drops and I just tried to figure out what did I silence in the past in the game. So some of the silence targets are hitting wild pretty hard because right now Nerubian Egg, you cannot really respond to that early enough. Unstable Ghoul, like some of the cards that move from standard to wild will it will be hard to respond to them. Like Ironbeak Owl was a great response to Knife Juggler, Shielded Minibot. Like there were some cards you really wanted to silence, but they moved to wild. So in wild, it might be troublesome that the Ironbeak Owl is now for 3 mana. I understand the nerf because it was giving too much value for 2 mana. It was a card that you also wanted to auto-include almost. And now we can make a call. Do you want Ironbeak Owl to have an early response, or do you want Spellbreaker for 4 mana? Or as a Druid, do you want to have Keeper of the Grove, which is somewhere, like if you look at those silence cards, you can make a choice depending on what your deck is and what you want to include in your deck. Before it was like, yeah, silence, like Owl is the best, or like Keeper is the best, depending on what you have. But There are two cards that are really dangerous and you normally want to silence them, and those cards are Mana Worm for mages and Trog for Shaman. So I do often silence those cards, and those cards are in standard still. So if Mana Worm gets buffed, free mana, turn free, just playing a 2-1 just like dies to the card, might be too late and not efficient enough. So you will need to have different removal for those guys, especially for Trog and Mana Worm. And those cards will be really heavily played in the new standard format. So I do understand the owl change. I kind of like it, but it opens some dangers that you will have to think about. So we might need to include some more early removal, because the Iron Big Owl does not fit the same role it did in the past. And another nerf that's huge, it's a really huge, is Big Hunter. So for 3 mana 4/2 that destroyed a 7+ attack creature, that was a 5 mana guy, same stats. So I honestly really like the nerf because it makes the card playable still. It's the guy plays a big creature. Like most of the 7 mana creatures, 7 attack creatures are really mana costly. Like they cost a lot. And then you pay 5 and you destroy that creature. So you destroy the 7 mana they paid, and you still have a 4/2 on the board. So Big Hunter still definitely playable. What it does also for the game is that there will be no swing turns like with Big Hunters. So I play my Ragnaros for 8 mana, you kill my Ragnaros for 3 mana, and then you play your 5-drop for 5. So this is like you suddenly have 2 creatures, I have nothing. So this is a big change, because card is still good and it's definitely will be played, especially with all the big creatures. But again, it creates a problem. Same with Iron Big Owl, because there are 2 creatures that are not nerfed, and those guys are the giants. It's Mountain Giant and Sea Giant, and those guys can enter the game super early. So for Sea Giant, we've seen Sea Giants on what, turn 4, turn 3. And Mountain Giants is what, also like a 3 mana, 4 mana card, right? So super early, and you will not have the Big Game Hunter to deal with them, and they can do a lot of damage, and you will need to have a different removal card to deal with those guys if they enter the game. And late game, they are still really cheap. Like Handlock has full hand, Mountain Giant is 3 mana. So I play my 3 mana 8/8 and something for 5. And you have to play your Big Game Hunter for 5 to kill my free mana guy, and then you have no mana to deal with my 5 mana creatures. So those 2 guys will be troublesome. Also, there are some other cards. Flame Wreathed Faceless, that's the guy from the new expansion, 4 mana 7/7. How do you respond to that? Like if you have 5 mana, yeah, you play Big Game Hunter, but if he's being played with the coin maybe on turn 3, you will not have Big Game Hunter, and he will just wreak havoc on your board, or just go to face. Same with let's say Fell Reaver in Wild. So Fell Reaver is out of standard, but in Wild Fell Reaver is still a good card, and then suddenly we don't have Big Game Hunter to just deal with the Fell Reaver. Well, we do have 5 mana Big Game Hunter, but it might not be early enough, especially when Druid plays it with Innervate super early. Another card I want to mention is Earth Elemental, Shaman card that might actually see play again, especially because we can deal with Overload Crystals now. So Earth Elemental for 5 mana, 7 attack might be a really good card. And originally the organic response was Big Game Hunter, but suddenly Big Game Hunter is 5 mana, so I don't know if you can spend that much mana there to deal with Earth Elementals. So we will see. We'll see. Like basically, there is a couple of really dangerous cards that might see play and then shine with the Big Game Hunter nerfed, but there is a lot of good stuff about it. Like the good stuff is that with Big Game Hunter nerfed, no big swing turns, and I think you will be able to enjoy your big creatures a bit more. Like you will feel like, hey, I play my big creature. He had to spend a lot of resources to deal with it, which is like 5 mana, and now I can easily deal with this 4/2. Nothing else got played, so that's a good part. All right, then we move to class nerfs. We have Hunter's Mark being nerfed for Hunters, and a lot of people are wondering why, because Hunter's Mark wasn't a card you wanted to play in every deck. And I think mostly the 0 mana cards are bad for the game. Like I mentioned in Nerf before, Hunter's Mark. There are some other 0 mana cards like Preparation. Whenever you try to cheat the turn and cheat the game in a way, it's too big of a swing, and then you just win after that. So Hunter's Mark was used heavily in before in metagame in the past before Explorers, and right now I think it's going back with all the big taunts. So Blizzard already noted probably in testing that Hunter's Mark is going to be one of the key cards, and Hunter has a lot of removal. Hunter will be a very strong deck, so having it for 0 when somebody plays a big creature and you just slam your, let's say I played my Mountain Giant, right, for 4 mana or whatever, and you play your 4-drop and you just kill my Mountain Giant for with one creature you had and Hunter's Mark for free. So it will be again like a too big of a swing. So I think I like the change. Like Hunter's Mark is still a good removal card, and it's good that you have to pay some mana for it. 1 shouldn't be too much, and 0 was just too cheap. Just going with Unleash the Hounds, Knife Juggler, Unleash the Hounds, Hunter's Mark, stuff like that. It was just too good. And another card that's getting nerfed, and it's actually pretty big, is Blade Flurry. Nerfed to 4 mana and not dealing damage to hero, because it was such a swingy card, just clearing the board, dealing damage to face. It was definitely one of the strongest cards for Rogue and in the game overall. And now it's getting nerfed, so I don't know if it will have any usage. We'll have to ask Mr. Yagut, specialist in Rogue, or Nairia, or Hyped. But right now, it's really a lot worse than it was. It was a great card to clear stuff. Now it can still clear stuff, but it's a big investment. So in all those changes, you can see Blizzard is coming away from the swing turns. And with Blade Flurry just clearing the whole board, Rogue will be left with nothing almost, just needing to play 4 mana and maybe follow up with a 2 mana creature instead of doing a 2 mana Blade Flurry and then playing a Tomb Pillager or whatever. So I think the changes again like in line with what they are doing with the nerfs, and I think it's fine. Rogue should be playable still with Gadgets on, and Rogue has a lot of great tricks anyway. And you know what? Preparation, suddenly it's only 1 mana. Doesn't deal damage to hero, it's fine. Still great swing to clear the board. And now we move to the minions. The minions, first Knife Juggler being changed to a 2/2 creature, but the ability is not being changed, which ruffled some jimmies of the pro players. And we've seen, I think, Reynad saying the card is, I don't know exactly what he said, let's see. So Reynad said, all I wanted for Christmas was a balanced Knife Juggler. It's still oppressive, awful, irrelevant nerf, and that's how how it will stay forever. Well, that's what he said about Knife Juggler, and on my side, I kind of like Knife Juggler as an aggro player, but I can see why people don't like it. It is an RNG card. It is bringing a lot of RNG, and many games are decided by the knife. Does the knife hit the face? Does the knife hit the minion? And we've seen many games where if you hit face with the knife twice, and in many games I casted, I sometimes say that there is an improbable situation on the board. One player is basically winning, and I'm trying to go through outs, and I'm thinking, hey, if he draws Knife Juggler, he actually has this like 2% chance to win the game or the match right there. So Knife Juggler is in a way bad for the game and good for the game. It's bad for the pro players because it brings this RNG and an uncontrollable thing that will swing the game in a way. Good for the game because the viewers love it. Like the viewers would like to see Knife Juggler just wrecking the player they don't like, or being good for the player. So those crazy juggles, they really give us a lot of emotions there. But it's getting nerfed a bit. So unfortunately for most of the Hearthstone community, I would be okay with just changing the card, redesigning it as well. But unfortunately for most of the people, it stays. So if you still play like minions, it is going to throw the juggles, and Unleash the Hounds Knife Juggler combo works, and a lot of other combos still work with the Knife Juggler. But it's smaller. It's a 2/2 now. So what does it mean? It means that it's not that oppressive in a way, with stats at least. So when you play Knife Juggler, you want to play play it specifically for the effect. So aggro matchups where you play Juggler, you play 1-drop, and you want to kill the 1-drop on the other side, or if you play it at the Hunter with Unleash the Hounds, not like you just slam it as the best possible 2-drop, because some of the 2-drops will just counter it. And if Cthulhu decks get popular, we'll have a lot of 2-mana 2-frees, and you will not be able to just play the Juggler there and let it die. So I think the nerf hits the card definitely. We will see some use of it still, so it might be a good nerf. I think it's pretty balanced, not to kill the card completely. Card is still fun to play. It will, most of the pro players will still hate it, that's for sure, but most of the people will just have a lot of fun with it. And another nerf, I cry every time, guys, I cry every time. It's the Leopard Gnome nerf. Finally, somebody in Blizzard seeing the card as too powerful. Oh no, they nerf it, and honestly it was really powerful. And if you ever build an aggro deck, you look at Leopard Gnome, it's a 1 mana 2/1 that deals 2 damage, you're like, yep, that's the best 1-drop I can include in my deck, and you just cannot not include Leopard Gnome in an aggro deck. Because most of the time it's just 4 damage for 1 mana, or more likely 6 damage for 1 mana. So suddenly it's like a fireball in an aggro deck for 1 mana. Leopard Gnome being really good, and changing its attack to 1, because that's the nerf, makes it, well, considerably worse. It doesn't trade with the 3/2s anymore, dealing only 1 damage to minion, and it's not that great. If you have to compare Leopard Gnome to anything else, you can think Argent Squire. What is better now? Argent Squire or Leopard Gnome? Well, definitely Argent Squire is better when you look only at the minion, because it has Divine Shield, doesn't die, so it can deal more damage as a minion. And you can buff it, you can use the Divine Shield there. But Leopard Gnome, I think, still has a place in a way that it is still 2 damage for 1 mana, possibly 3 damage for 1 mana, because it will attack once, or it will get killed, or just requires some mana to get killed. So maybe in a really low curve Zudex, it will be still playable, because you will consider it as a 2 damage for 1 mana creature that needs to be dealt with. Maybe you can use the Death Rattle a bit, like using it with Raptor and Rogue. Like, I think card still has a place with the low curve decks, but definitely it's not an auto include now. You will have to compare it to other 1-drops and think, is the Worgen better? Because it's a 2/1 and it will attack for sure, it will not get removed. The good part is that silence is slowly getting away and getting more expensive, so maybe Leopard Gnome not being silenced, just dealing those 2 damage. We've seen Leopard Gnome just winning games being pinged by yourself, like you just play it as a mage, just ping it to deal that last 2 damage. So yeah, I think it's still a cool card overall, but finally getting nerfed. And another guy is Arcane Golem, and this guy gets nerfed to the ground. So a 3 mana 4/2 charge that gives a mana crystal. Now it's a 3 mana 4/4. And honestly, guys, like giving a mana crystal was always bad. Like you never want to ramp your opponent. And suddenly you're still ramping your opponent, but you can't even charge. It's just a 4/4. So Dancing Blades was a bit better, because it's only draw a card for your opponent, and people still haven't played it for a reason. So Arcane Golem, on my side of the board, I think it's dead. Like, I would not play the card. I can't see the place for a card. And I wonder why they're nerfed though. Like, do we nerf it because there's too much charge? Like, it can't be really nerfed because of the Warlock PO combo. We still have a Wolf Rider. We have Leroy. Like, we can still PO a creature. Maybe there were too many charged creatures with Wolf Riders and Arcane Golems. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure why the nerf. And but yeah, it happened. The card is dead, basically. Like if you charged Arcane Golem to face many times before, now you can do it a couple of days more before the nerf hits, and then bye Arcane Golem, and that's basically it about the card. Another guy that got nerfed is Molten Giant, and that's not fully surprising. I've mentioned Mountain Giant and Sea Giant being one of those cards that you can cheat in early. Molten Giant is getting nerfed to 25. So what does it mean? What it meant before, 20 mana for Molten Giant meant that when you're at 10 health, you can play Molten Giant for free. Now we can play it for free when you're at 5. it is a big difference when you think about 3 Molten Giant, because 5 is really dangerous. 5 is kill command, 5 is quick shot and hero power, or just kill command hero power. So when you get Warlock to 5, when they play Molten Giants, you're like, sure, 5 health is nothing, and there is no heal bot, so they will need to find other ways of healing. We do have some healing in the new standard with the new expansion, but it is a big difference. Also, maybe 8 is a magic number now, because when you get your opponent to 8, 8 is still feasible for aggro deck to deal that damage with burst. Maybe even 7, being a mage and having them at fireball and a possible ping just for 6 mana to finish them. For 7, Molten Giant is for 2. If they have 7 health, it's for 2 mana. If they have 8, they are at 3 mana, 4 mana. So yeah, I think the overall change is good, because right now with Reno Jackson, Molten Giants were really powerful, and I think if you want to play aggro decks at all, so when I look at the current metagame in standard with all the cards, because all the cards got revealed, I think there will be mostly a lot of mid-range decks which are endgame heavy with a lot of taunts and just blocking the damage, right? And some control decks like Freeze Mage is probably going to be really good. And aggro decks will just, if we want aggro decks to exist, we need to allow them to win the game in the first, 5-6 turns before anybody stabilizes. And Molten Giant is one of those tools that the better the aggro deck does, the more it punishes it in a way, because at some point you just cannot even deal damage to face. And if there is a Molten Giant, you just die. Like a free Molten Giant just wins the game on turn 10 health. So the nerf makes a lot of sense to allow aggro decks to still win, and it's still a tool that's playable if aggro decks get too much damage to face, or if you yourself are able to reduce their health. So I think it's still a playable card, and the nerf is not bad. Like, I would actually want to see a Sea Giant and Mountain Giant nerf as well. So Molten Giant is a good change. I'm looking forward to testing Molten Giants because they are still playable, I believe. 5, 7, 8 health. It's not that much different for a deck that will be able to play Reno Jackson, for example, right? So yeah, just life tap to 5, play Molten Giant, Reno, and you're good. That's what's going to happen. And the last card that everybody is curious about, Master of Disguise changes. That's a Master of Disguise nerf. Everybody says he is a ninja. That's why nobody saw it coming. Master of Disguise was so good, but he was hiding all his powers. So yeah, that nerf. So what happened? Master of Disguise, a 4 mana 4/4 battle cry, give a friendly minion stealth, and it gives stealth forever. The minion just stays stealthed as long as it doesn't do anything. So it doesn't work on Ragnaros in a way because he activates and shoots face. But the minion will keep being stealthed, like Worgen. Just it keeps, like any stealth minion that you play with stealth will stay stealthed as long as something happens to it, like it attacks or does a thing. And now the change is, give a friendly minion stealth until your next turn. So basically it will unstealth itself. So it will work like conceal, that you basically conceal minions and they will, they will just be able to be seen and targeted. So why the change? Why the change? The card was never played. Nobody liked the card. Card was literally bad. Because the design of new cards in the future. Imagine a card that has an ongoing effect and maybe buffs all the minions. So, for example, we have cards like that actually. Like we have guys who buff the minions like +1/+1 to all the minions, and maybe something even else, something that's better, that changes the board in a way. And you slam this card in Master of Disguise, and then what happens? Like the card just stays there. So imagine Brown Bronzebeard, for example, right? Maybe we had it already and we just haven't seen it. Brown Bronzebeard and Master of Disguise, and then Brown Bronzebeard stays stealthed forever, and you just can use this effect of Brown Bronzebeard for Cthulhu, for like buffing Cthulhu, all the other things. So maybe the Blizzard guys just for now they saw, hey, Master of Disguise is just basically the Cthulhu rogue deck is just too good. We have to nerf this card because if you slap Braun into Master of Disguise, there's no way to remove Braun Bronzebeard from the board for many decks, and then Rogue just destroys you. And especially with the Hand of Cthulhu and stuff like that, where Cthulhu gets to 38 per 38 and you just overkill your opponent. So maybe that was one of the reasons for now. And for the future, I can understand that every card that works like Braun Bronzebeard will be dangerous for the game if Master of Disguise falls up. So it makes sense, guys. It makes sense. It was a combo-genic card that we want to avoid. Just looking at my notes, was there anything else? Oh yeah, there is one big elephant in the room that never got nerfed, and the card is Savage Roar. Guys, what happened? Why not nerf Savage Roar? I honestly don't know. I think the card is too powerful, and I've been vocal about it on Twitter, and a lot of people were vocal about it on Twitter, that in our opinion it's not Force of Nature, which was actually a good comeback card as well, but Savage Roar. The thing is, you deal, like, it's not hard for Druid to have 2 minions on board. And this means that Savage Roar is 6 damage for 3 mana, which is better than Fireball. And if you have another creature with charge, like Druid of the Claw or Druid of the Saber, suddenly add +2, and it's 8 mana for 8 damage for 3 mana. So I've seen so many situations where Savage Roar is still too good, and you have to play around it, and it's still a great removal card because you just buff your creatures and attack into other creatures, and it's a kill card. So I think it's too good, and but some people disagree. A lot of people disagree as well. And Savage Roar didn't get nerfed. Innervate didn't get nerfed. Wildgrowth didn't get nerfed. So Druid is still going to be really good because I don't feel like nerfing those 3 cards changed a bit. And Cthulhu Druid deck looks really solid for now, and that will be it so far. So Innervate, Savage Roar not nerfed. The Giants not nerfed. They will be a problem. Trog, Mana Worm, I think will be a problem, but most of the nerfs were actually really good, and they will change Hearthstone as we know it, and I'm happy for them because everything is going to be fresh. So let me know, guys. Do you like the changes? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Would you like to see any other cards nerfed? Do you see any card that's really problematic and you would like to see it nerfed? Or do you feel like maybe Iron Big Owl was good as it was and it shouldn't get nerfed? Let me know in the comments, and that will be it. So thanks so much for watching. See you guys in the next video.